So I have to do a little bit of a brain dump here because I've had an information intensive last few days. Where to start? I guess yesterday morning is a good place to start. So first thing in the morning, I got a text message from my friend Jim, who is working at a nonprofit cancer research institute in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he was talking to me about this company called Arrowhead Research, which their stock ticker is ARWR. Anyway, this is a company that's using interference RNA tagged to nanoparticles that are then targeted to certain cancer cells or viruses or whatever you want to design them to target and use as therapeutics to shut down certain genes. So that's really interesting, and it was very serendipitous because simultaneously yesterday was our BC 793 seminar in which Ling Zhang, graduate student in Carolyn Luger's lab, Colorado State, presented a seminar about siRNA aptamer chimeras. So these are pretty much the same thing that I just described. So it's very except they're completely RNA. So it's RNA that's been selected through basically evolution in a Eppendorf tube to bind to a certain target ligand. And so in this case, she was looking at HIV treatment. So there was a paper published, I think this was from 2009, showing that you can link this artificially evolved aptamer to an siRNA for a gene that you wish to knock down. So say like an oncogene or in the case of HIV, a viral gene that is required for infection, and knock it down and basically treat the disease. Even in, it's not just prevention, but as a treatment for diseased individuals with HIV to target the HIV infected cells and basically stop the expression of viral genes. So it was very interesting that there was those two systems, one with the aptamer RNA chimeras, and then the other with the nanoparticle RNAi. I mean, I think of RNAi and siRNA as the same thing. Maybe there's a subtle syntax difference there, but I'm not really sure. Anyway, so that was yesterday's excitement. Today's excitement revolved around hearing the lecture of one Morgan DeFort, who is a I don't know his exact title, but he works with a guy named Brian Wilson at the Engines and Energy Conversion Laboratory here at Colorado State, and he was giving the Science Cafe at Avogadro's Number being this kind of funky, cool, hipster, hippie restaurant in Fort Collins on Mason Street. So he gave the Science Cafe. It was the first Science Cafe held at Avogadro's Number, a place where I'm very fond of. And his seminar was, the guy Brian Wilson, who is the head, I don't know if you can call him the president, but he's the head of the Clean Energy Supercluster that's in northern Colorado, specifically centered at CSU here. So this Morgan DeFort, I think he's like the second-hand man anyway. He spoke instead of Brian Wilson. But it was very interesting. He spoke in two sections, one about EnviroFit, which is the stove company. You can look up more. I'll post a link in the sidebar about EnviroFit. It's very interesting. So basically explained how EnviroFit started with what sounds like venture capital, but more it's like a grant, or I don't know exactly what it is, from the Shell Corporation, which of course is from Royal Dutch Shell, but it's the kind of like green branch of that entity. Anyway, EnviroFit, they make these stoves that burn wood extremely efficiently and therefore reduce particulate pollution in the homes of people who cook with biomass, or people who still cook by burning wood and having pots over those wood, which is a large portion of the world. So they were specifically focused on selling these stoves in southern India, and we're talking about, you know, running ads for the stoves, like painted on the sides of elephants in India and things. And he kept saying that they're using the enterprise model to sell stoves. And he did it with this analogy where he said, imagine that I was an alien and that I came to Earth and said to you, you're being hit with cosmic rays constantly and they're killing you, they're causing you to die early. And in order to protect you from these, you need to wear this tin or aluminum hat. And, you know, it was a good analogy because basically it's saying, like, the person listening to you say that would say, hey, you're crazy. What are you talking about? I'm not going to wear this silly hat and basically go back on the horse you rode in on. So in order to combat this, they kind of use the market and say, okay, these are cool stoves to own, so you should own these and buy them. And then that gets people to purchase them, I guess. Which is cool, really cool. But he's not working. He was very adamant that they're not really working with the government to subsidize these stoves. They're really just using the free market to sell these stoves, and that they're a non-profit, and Envirofit is a non-profit, but they sell the stoves at a high enough yet low enough price where they cover all their operating costs and pay for the cost of the stove, but aren't really making a profit. I want to know more about the exact numbers there, like how many people are employed by Envirofit and what the average salary is, and what's the highest salary, the lowest salary, etc. I'd like to know those things. That'd be interesting. I'm sure somebody can answer those questions for me, perhaps Brian Wilson. Okay, so then there was lots of discussions in that about how that works and how, you know, why that's important. And it is, I mean, to reduce carbon emissions, that is really important, and to also maximize the amount of energy that people are getting out of the biomass that they're burning. I mean, that's really an important issue facing humanity and worthy of all this enterprising effort from these smart people. But then we kind of got into a topic that was closer to my area of interest, which is algal biodiesel. So using algae to generate biodiesel. I mean, I'm not a plant biologist. I'm not a plant geneticist. I love plants, and I'm a biochemist. I study brain protein, human brain protein, but I don't really study photosynthetic organisms ever. I mean, other than in textbooks and stuff, and when I go walking in the woods. But he started to talk about Solix Biofuels, which is a startup company that started out at CSU. Brian Wilson started this company as well, I believe. And he was describing the generation of biodiesel from algae. And it was very interesting because when I audited this biofuels class 3 years ago with my friend Mike, actually he took the class and I just audited it. I think it was just called biofuels. My criticism of the whole algal biodiesel is that you're still burning CO2 emitting fuel. And as I'm sitting there talking with Morgan DeFort, I think his name is, I kind of had this epiphany that, I mean, it's a great intention, and I think it really is a good idea, you know, to do these things while they have the opportunity. But it seemed like a bit not revolutionary enough for me. And the reason I say that is that algal biofuels, algal biodiesel, it's very